Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the 10 Things channel, actually. There's this controversy brewing all over the net, social media, and the controversy is that men of God are still asking for offering, even during this COVID-19 period, even during this um, quarantine period. And many people are shocked. Many people are just flabbergasted. I mean, they can't believe it that these men are so greedy that even in their little hideout, they are still chasing them with mobile money short codes uh, and mobile numbers and cash numbers, asking for them for their offering. In fact, they can't believe they are hounding them for offering at this crucial time. And I just want to address that issue because it appears that we're in an era where the only thing that seems to be popular is being negative. It's like we are in an era where you have to be negative to be popular. You have to be anti-establishment to be popular. But not all anti-establishment stands are right. So let's go into it. Should Bishop Oyedepo and other churches be collecting offering at this quarantine period? Now, let me give you 10 reasons why I believe that you should really look at this situation. And if you have a stand, you should toe this line. I have 10 very good reasons. 10. You know, let me give you a background. The Bible talks about when we read Second Corinthians, and it talks about when giving sparingly and the rest 9. And then in that scripture, it talks about the fact that there are churches that in their very difficulty, you know, in their very difficulty, like the Macedonian church, in their very difficulty, in their poverty, the Bible describes, it says, in their very poverty, they gave, not just giving what they had, but even giving beyond what they could afford. Clearly stating that you don't need to give when you are comfortable. There's no concept of giving in the Bible that says you should give comfortably. In fact, the only thing that comes close to that is tithe, where it says you should give according to how you've been blessed. If you read the New Testament, the Paul also admonished in the Acts when he was collecting offering, and this was an offering for churches that were in need. So you should give according to how they have been blessed. Remember, he's not saying they should give out of their excess. He says you should give in proportion. In other words, if you have more money, give more money. That's the kind of giving that affects you because you are giving in proportion to your earning, not in proportion to how much money you are willing to let go. What has brought about this idea that when we are in times of difficulty, there should be no offering? What has brought about this idea that offering should only be given in good times? What has brought about this idea that offering should not be given because we are in this a pandemic? What has brought about this idea? Well, it's because now the only pastors that most of us see in our minds are pastors with jets, pastors with Rolls Royces, pastors who are flamboyant, pastors who are flaunting their worth, pastors who seem to have it all and appear not to share. But that is not the typical pastor. In fact, that kind of pastor does not even form 0.5% of the other pastors in the world. Most of the pastors in the world are normal, ordinary, many even living below the average lifestyles of their nations. And so these flamboyant rich pastors on TV are a tiny microcosm of pastors who have so much money that they don't know what to do with. And if we keep that idea in our mind, we'll hardly give an offering. Why should we give offering even when we are in difficult times like this? In times when we are in a lockdown, why should we give offering? Why should we have mobile numbers to send our friends to church when the church building is closed, when there's no music, when there's no drumming? Why should we still give an offering? Good. Let's go for the number one reason. Because the church, just like you, if you work for the government, you are still being paid even though you're at home. The church also has workers who are not pastors, so who don't need to leave church services to be paid. Workers that work in church offices, accountants, administrators, and these ones need to be paid. So, since you don't want us to offer, are you saying that those workers that work for the church during this period they should not be paid? And where is the church going to get money to pay these workers? Since the income, which is the offering that we are supposed to give, is the one we are complaining about not giving. They are graduates, top notch administrators who work for the church in a non clergy position, who are like ordinary workers somewhere else, who also need to be paid so they can feed their families in this time of quarantine. So that's the number one reason why we must keep giving offering, even though we are in quarantine. We must send it through means that will get to the church, even this period when we are not going to church. Now, the number two is that the church has clergy that it pays. My church, the Church of Pentecost, has almost 2,000 clergy that it pays. These are mostly graduates, you know, professionals who are working in various fields, who have left that profession and have taken up the call of God to work full time for the Lord. They're on call 24/7 to their members at any time. The members can call them for one reason or the other. And hence, we sustain their mature lifestyle as they help us with our spiritual lifestyle. These clergy must eat, even though they are in hibernation. They have family, they have children, they have wives who must eat. Even if they are praying and fasting, what about their children? What about their wives? How do they feed during this time of isolation? Should they not be paid? And what money are we going to use to pay them if we are not giving offering? So, for the clergies that are employed all over the world to work for churches, we must still keep giving offering during this time. Doesn't matter whether it is an Oyedepo church or it's a church of Pentecost. Now we have Ghana or international. Now we have the third reason. I don't know whether you're aware of this, but it takes a lot to run a church building. There are many utility bills to pay. Even sometimes you even pay instrumentalists. See, all of these bills, water bill, washroom use, and the rest, all of these things are utilities that the church pays for from the tithes, especially. So if the church is closed, at least the security lighting is still on. And so there's still bills running. A pastor will go to the office sometimes because there he's going alone, so no issue of corona. And many other things, many other administrative duties that might be done in the church. And all of these things they run on electricity, they run on water. So for the utility bills that we are still using, especially now that we are home, the utility bills at the mission house, you know, just like some kinds of forms of employment, their utility bills are taken care of. In the established churches too, utility bills of pastors are taken care of. So at this time of quarantine, when they are more at home, your family is more at home. This is a time that you think their utility bills will not go up. This is the time you think they don't need to pay utility bills. For which reason you think that we shouldn't give offering? So for their utility bills to be paid, we need to keep giving offering even in this time because it is they are still praying with us. They are still attending to us when we call them for one reason or the other. Now, the fourth reason why we should still keep giving offering even in this time of quarantine is that, as I said, it pays for the not only the utilities of the church, security lights and other things. It also pays for the utilities of the mission house, where there are children at home who are not working, using electricity, using water, and the rest. So the fifth reason why we should keep giving offering, even though we are in quarantine, and that there's nothing upset about it, there's nothing greedy about it, it's just common sense, is because the church is paying for the schooling of some members. There are several ample examples in my district, in all the districts, In fact, in my church, every district has assigned somebody to the church, Pentecost University, and all of these people, once you pay their school fees, you need to gather money again for the next step. Even though people at home, it doesn't mean the schooling has stopped. You know, even though people at home, it doesn't mean that the education has stopped. So you have paid for the fees of people. You need to gather money for the next semester's fee. So we need to give offering because from the offering that these things are done. And paying for schooling and tertiary is not cheap. So for the support that the churches give to people who are schooling, I mean needy members among them who are schooling, we need to actually keep giving offering. Now the sixth reading, the sixth reason why we should actually give offering, even though we're in quarantine, is to pay for the education of pastors. Sometimes people forget that when these pastors commit themselves to study the word, they need to upgrade themselves from time to time, study theology, study, how to preach, study all kinds of theology, so that they can understand what they are preaching. They can preach from the right context. They can preach, understanding the right historical background and the rest. And it's the same church that sponsors these pastors to go to school to upgrade themselves. All of these expenses cannot wait indefinitely because COVID has come. They must be prepared for, and the church must raise the offering to prepare for these things. Now, um, we give offerings again for church buildings. You may be surprised, but after you've raised church build, you've raised an offering, it doesn't go in. You'll be surprised the amount of offering people give in church. Very minimal. The offering people give in church is very small. In fact, from some surveys done, the most, if you combine all the offerings in church, every offering we take, it will be at most 30%, 20 to 30%. The overwhelming majority of the offering is tithe. That is why any attempt to attack tithe is an attempt to collapse the church of God. It is not of God. Human beings by nature do not give so much of their monies voluntarily. Very few do. The only way that substantial amounts of money can be had for the edifices you see around, for the maintenance and all of that, it is when it tithes is paid, even during this period. So, schools have been built. Schools have been built. And you want to build more schools. You give these tithe and offering during this time so that such monies can accumulate for such schools to be built. Remember, the school may be expensive, as somebody was singing loudly. But remember, if that school does not come, somebody might not get a job, and that person might not be able to afford to send his or her child to school at all. So the church may not all be able to send their child to that school, but that school will enable somebody to send his child or her child to school. We should not be one-sided when we're making these statements. It's so one-sided. In any economy, when those who can afford it move to a sector, it frees space for the less endowed to fill there. So it is always like that. Okay. When the rich move to the more richer areas, it frees space for the less endowed to fill in their places. And that is how social mobility happens. Now, so the offerings are building schools. So they need to keep coming even during this time. The offerings are building hospitals. So we need to come during this time. Because the hospitals are running during this time. So it needs to keep coming. Remember, you know, I'm a beneficiary of mission schools. My preschool was a Pentecost school, and then I continued with an Anglican school, and then I went to Rich, which was somewhat, but then somewhere it was adopted by Presby, sort of. That was the only side two amongst them. Then I went to JSS, which was um, former Presby Boys Boarding School. which I now become Presby JSS, a mission school. And I proceeded to another school built by a church, St. Peter's Secondary School in Kwentia, which is a Catholic built school from the offerings of a Catholic church. Imagine where I would be now if all of these schools didn't exist that I attended. So, because the schools may look elitist in some of them, does it mean that even poor people don't get scholarship to attend? Of course not. Of course not. So, because of these schools, because of these hospitals, the offering should keep coming in now, because this is not this period that the plan of the church to educate, the plan of the church to heal the sick, to treat the wounded, will have to be off gear. Lastly, the last reason, the 10th reason why we need to keep giving offerings even at this in this period is because the offerings don't only pay clergy, they don't only pay non-clergy. They are also what the money is used for some recurrent expenditure in terms of official vehicles. The leadership of the church will be going for meetings, the president and the rest. Something must fuel their vehicle, something must fuel their vehicle, something must maintain their car, something must pay their drivers and the rest, and that is the offering. That does that. Look, we should always be careful when we are criticizing offering, because the only person that benefits is the devil. You know, ask yourself, ask yourself if your clients refuse to pay because it's COVID. People who have borrowed from you are now saying that because COVID has come, they won't pay you. Have you asked yourself how you feel if your workplace decided that they won't pay you? Because there are some private sector people who are thinking of doing that. Decide not to pay because you are at home now, when it's no fault of yours. Because they say they are not having clients. Even there are companies that are not getting clients and they are still paying people. In the same way, God has taken care of you. His work is there. Bible said the time came when the Israelites refused to take their tithes to the priest, and the priest abandoned the work and went farming. Is that what we want to happen in the church of God, where people that have been called in the work of God will abandon them and pick their certificates that they are going back to their jobs, like Peter went back to fishing? No. So we should stop always visualizing some rich guy or flamboyant pastor who doesn't know what to do with his money and making it appear like that is how all pastors are. Those people are in the very, very, very tiny minority. They are in a very tiny minority. You know, none of my pastors that I have in my church has a Rolls Royce. None of them. And as I said, they're over 2,000. None of them has any luxury car. So when somebody comes and flaunts a luxury car on TV, doesn't mean all pastors have luxury car, all pastors have jets. It doesn't exist. It's not like that. So as much as possible, it's like saying that you won't pay your DSTV subscription because it's COVID. It's like say you won't pay electricity bill because it's COVID. It's like saying that when your salary comes at the end of April, or when it came last at the end of March, the government spare you of taxes because you're in COVID. So if none of those things has changed, why are you saying that when it comes to offering to God, that one must stop? It's not of God, please. And it's not because of any genuine concern. It's purely because it's about God. Anything about God, the devil fights. God bless you, even as you continue to support the work of God, especially in these difficult times when the church is making donations, giving offerings to support the national agenda, and also helping its members. This is the time that your offering is needed the most, so that the church can help outside it and also help those within. God bless you as you give. Love you. Amen. God bless you.